The silent species. The discovery. Professor Kexler stood before the Galactic Music Council, his crystalline body flickering with nervous energy. In his manipulators, he held a data core containing something that should not exist. Something impossible. Esteemed council members, Kexler began, his voice translating through 100 different frequencies for the 100 different species present. I have discovered music from a forbidden world. Music that violates every law we understand about sound and harmony. The council chamber fell silent. Elder Thras, a being of pure sound who existed as vibrations in specialized containment, spoke first. Her words rippled through the air like water. The forbidden world. You mean Earth? Yes, Elder. The quarantined planet. The world of humans. A murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone knew about Earth. 50 years ago, the Galactic Council had declared it off-limits after a brief contact mission revealed something terrifying about humanity. Not their weapons or their technology, but something far more dangerous. Humans created art that affected other species on a fundamental level. The first contact team had spent 3 days on Earth. Within that time, 2 of them had undergone complete personality changes after listening to something humans called music. A Vexarian mathematician had abandoned logic entirely and spent hours weeping at sounds she claimed were beautiful. A Korthian military commander had deserted his post, saying he'd found peace in something called a symphony. The council had quarantined Earth immediately. Whatever humans were creating, it was too dangerous to allow into galactic civilization. Art was meant to be understood intellectually, not felt emotionally. The idea that sounds could change how beings thought was classified as a mimetic hazard. But Professor Kexler had broken the quarantine. He'd hidden a probe in the debris field of a destroyed comet, letting it drift into Earth's orbit undetected. For 5 years, it had been recording human transmissions. And what it found had consumed Kexler's every waking moment. I must play this for you, Kexler said. I must show you what humans have created. Absolutely not, snapped Counselor Brevix, a Talvirian known for strict adherence to regulations. The quarantine exists for a reason. Human art is a threat to rational thought. With respect, Counselor, you are wrong. Human art is not a threat. It is. Kexler struggled to find words. It is evolution. It is the next step in how intelligent beings can experience reality. Elder Thras vibrated with curiosity. A bold claim, Professor. What evidence do you have? Let me play 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds. If you wish to stop after that, I will destroy all the data and never speak of this again. The council debated for an hour. Finally, they agreed. 30 seconds. With full protective protocols active. If any council member showed signs of mental compromise, the playback would stop immediately. Kexler activated the data core. The chamber's speakers came to life. For 30 seconds, the council listened to something a human named Ludwig van Beethoven had created over 200 years before Kexler's probe had even arrived at Earth. They listened to the opening of Symphony No. 5. 4 notes. Simple, powerful, impossible. When it ended, the chamber was silent. Then Elder Thras spoke, her voice shaking. Play it again. The obsession. The council session lasted 18 hours. They listened to Beethoven. Then Mozart. Then something called jazz. Then rock. Then music from human cultures Kexler couldn't even pronounce the names of. With each new piece, the council members reacted differently. Some wept. Some laughed. Some sat in stunned silence. But none of them wanted it to stop. By the end, Counselor Brevix, the strictest advocate for the quarantine, was the one who spoke. We have made a terrible mistake. We thought humans were dangerous. We were right, but not in the way we feared. They are dangerous because they can show us what we've been missing. They are dangerous because they make us feel things we didn't know we could feel. Elder Thras agreed. This changes everything. For 10,000 years, galactic music has been about mathematical precision. Perfect harmonies. Calculated frequencies. We created beauty through logic. But humans, they create beauty through chaos. Through emotion. Through something we cannot quantify. What do we do? Asked another council member. We cannot maintain the quarantine now. Not after hearing this. Professor Kexler had anticipated this moment. I propose we invite one human musician to the galactic capital. One artist who can teach us their methods. If it goes well, we can establish cultural exchanges. If it goes poorly, we can return to isolation. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in 50 years, a human would be allowed into galactic space. The invitation. Maya Chen was practicing her violin when the aliens arrived. She was in her small apartment in New York City, working through a difficult passage from a Paganini caprice, when her window suddenly displayed a message in perfect English. Greetings, Maya Chen. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We would like to offer you a position as cultural ambassador. Please do not be alarmed. Maya stopped playing. She looked at her window, then at her violin, then back at the window. I'm either having a stroke or aliens are real. Please tell me I'm having a stroke. Aliens are real. You are not having a stroke. We have been monitoring Earth for 50 years. We have listened to your species' music. We would like to learn from you. Maya set down her violin carefully. Her hands were shaking. You've been listening to our music? Yes. And it has changed us in ways we did not think possible. We wish to understand how humans create such powerful art. Will you come teach us? Maya thought about her life. She was a good violinist, but not a great one. She taught private lessons to pay rent and performed with a local orchestra on weekends. She'd never been famous, never won awards, never made the kind of music that changed people's lives. But apparently, just by being human, her entire species had created music that changed aliens' lives. When do we leave? Maya asked. First contact. The Galactic Council gave Maya 3 days to prepare. They answered her questions patiently. Yes, Earth was quarantined. No, she couldn't tell anyone where she was going. Yes, she could bring her violin. No, she couldn't bring her phone because human technology wasn't compatible with galactic systems. When the ship arrived, it was nothing like Maya expected. She'd grown up on Star Trek and Star Wars, expecting sleek spacecraft and gleaming corridors. Instead, the alien vessel looked organic, like it had been grown rather than built. The interior pulsed with bioluminescent light. The walls hummed with harmonics that made her teeth vibrate. Professor Kexler met her at the airlock. He was beautiful in an alien way, his crystalline body refracting light into rainbows. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. Welcome, Maya Chen. I am Professor Kexler. I have studied your species' music for 5 years. I have listened to thousands of human songs. And I have one question I hope you can answer. What's that? Maya asked, clutching her violin case like a shield. How do you make us feel things that don't exist in our languages? How do you create emotions we don't have words for? Maya laughed. It came out nervous and high-pitched. That's what you want to know? How music makes you feel? Yes. For my entire life, I have experienced music as mathematical relationships. Frequencies and harmony. Patterns that please the analytical mind. But human music does something different. It creates feelings I cannot name. It makes me want to move, to cry, to laugh, to remember things I have never experienced. How? Maya thought about all her years of training. All the music theory, the scales, the technique. And she realized none of it would answer Kexler's question. I don't know, she admitted. I just play. The concert. The Galactic Council had converted their largest assembly chamber into a concert hall. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species had gathered, all wanting to hear a human make music live. Maya stood on the stage, her violin under her chin, more terrified than she'd ever been in her life. She was just one person with one instrument, and she was supposed to represent all of human artistic achievement. She almost ran. Almost told them this was a mistake. But then she saw Professor Kexler in the front row, his crystalline body flickering with anticipation. She saw Elder Thras, the being made of pure sound, waiting patiently. She saw thousands of alien faces, all of them curious, all of them hoping for something they couldn't name. Maya took a breath. She raised her bow. And she played. She started with something simple. A folk melody her grandmother had taught her. Just a basic tune, nothing fancy. But she played it the way her grandmother had sung it, with all the warmth and love and memory that simple song contained. The effect was immediate. Aliens who had never heard live human music before started making sounds. Clicks, whistles, hums, vibrations. Maya realized they were crying. Or at least, doing whatever their species did to express overwhelming emotion. She kept playing. She moved from the folk song into a classical piece, then improvised a jazz melody, then played something contemporary. She let her bow dance across the strings, pouring everything she felt into the music. Fear, joy, homesickness, wonder, hope. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Maya lowered her violin, worried she'd done something wrong. Then the entire audience erupted. Not in applause, because most species didn't have hands. But in sound. A symphony of alien voices, all expressing the same thing in their own languages. Thank you. The request. After the concert, Maya met with the Galactic Council privately. They wanted to establish a formal exchange program. Human musicians would come teach at galactic academies. Alien students would visit Earth to study. The quarantine would end, and Earth would be welcomed into the galactic community as the species that could teach everyone else how to feel. But Maya had a different idea. What if instead of teaching, we collaborated, she suggested. What if human musicians worked with alien composers to create something new? Something that combined our emotional approach with your mathematical precision? Elder Thras vibrated with excitement. Explain. Human music is powerful because it's imperfect. It's full of emotion and intuition. But galactic music has something we lack. You understand harmony and structure on a level we can't match. What if we combined them? What if we created music that was both felt and understood? Music that touched the heart and the mind simultaneously? The council members looked at each other. It was Counselor Brevix who spoke first. In 10,000 years of galactic civilization, we have created beautiful music. But it was cold. Perfect but empty. You humans have shown us what was missing. Not just through your music, but through your proposal. You don't want to conquer us with your art. You want to create something together. That is the most human thing I have ever heard. Maya smiled. So is that a yes? That is a yes. The symphony. The collaboration. The project took 3 years to complete. Maya worked with a team of 200 alien musicians, composers, and sound engineers. They came from 50 different species, each bringing their own musical traditions, their own ways of creating and experiencing sound. The challenges were immense. Some species heard frequencies humans couldn't perceive. Others created music through bioluminescence or electromagnetic fields that Maya couldn't sense without technological help. Communication was difficult. Cultural misunderstandings were constant. But slowly, impossibly, they learned from each other. A Quarthian composer named Thek taught Maya about harmonic structures so complex they required four-dimensional mathematics to write down. In return, Maya taught Thek about rubato, the human practice of subtly varying tempo for emotional effect. Thek called it organized chaos and loved it. A Vexarian named Scylla could manipulate sound waves with her mind, creating perfect tones through thought alone. Maya showed her how imperfect notes, played with emotion, could be more beautiful than technical perfection. Scylla wept the first time she deliberately played a note slightly flat and discovered it made the music more human. Professor Kexler became Maya's closest friend. He would sit for hours, his crystalline body resonating with whatever Maya played, asking endless questions about why certain chord progressions made him feel sad or why tempo changes created tension and release. "It's not logical," Kexler said one day. "A major chord should not make me feel happy. It's just frequencies and mathematical relationship. But it does make me happy." "How?" "Because music isn't just sound," Maya explained. "It's time made audible. When you hear music, you're experiencing change. Tension and resolution. Anticipation and satisfaction. That journey from dissonance to harmony, that's life. That's why it moves you. Not because of the math, but because of the story the math tells." Kexler was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I think I understand now why the council quarantined your world. It wasn't that we feared your music would hurt us. We feared it would change us. And we were right. It has changed us. We can never go back to experiencing music the way we did before. You have given us something precious and taken something away. The certainty that we understood reality. Is that a bad thing?" Maya asked. "No. It is the best thing that has ever happened to me. The composition. The piece they created together was unlike anything the galaxy had ever heard. It combined human melody with alien harmonics. Earth rhythms with extraterrestrial polyrhythms. Instruments from 100 worlds, all working together to create something new. They called it First Contact Suite, and it was divided into 4 movements. The first movement represented isolation. Each species' instruments played separately, beautiful but alone. Human violin, Corthian resonance crystal, Vexarian thought song, Talverian percussion, all creating gorgeous music that never quite connected. The second movement was chaos. The instruments began to interact but clashed. Dissonance and confusion. The sound of different worlds trying to communicate and failing. It was deliberately uncomfortable, full of tension that seemed impossible to resolve. The third movement was the breakthrough. Slowly, impossibly, the separate melodies began to find each other. A violin note that matched a crystal's resonance. A thought song that complemented percussion. Harmony emerging from chaos not through dominance but through listening, through adaptation, through beings choosing to change themselves to work together. The fourth movement was transcendence. All the instruments, all the voices, all the traditions combined into something that was greater than the sum of its parts. It was music that could only exist because different species had learned from each other. It was proof that collaboration created beauty that isolation never could. When they finished composing, Maya played through her parts one final time. She was exhausted. 3 years of work. 3 years of frustration and breakthroughs. 3 years of learning that music was just another language, and like all languages, it got more beautiful the more speakers it had. "Is it ready?" Thek asked. The Corthian composer had become almost as invested in the project as Maya herself. "It's ready," Maya said. "Now we just have to perform it." The performance. The premiere was held on the galactic capital world, in an amphitheater that held 2 million beings. It was broadcast to every world in the council, reaching an audience of trillions. Maya stood backstage, her violin in hand, watching the alien musicians prepare. She'd performed in front of audiences before, but never anything like this. Never with so much at stake. Professor Kexler approached her. "Are you nervous?" "Terrified." "Good. That means you care. That means it matters. What if we fail? What if the piece doesn't work? What if everyone hates it?" Kexler's crystalline body flickered. "Then we will have failed beautifully. And that is better than never trying at all. That is a lesson you humans taught me. It is better to attempt something impossible and fail than to only do things you know you can achieve." Maya took a breath. "Okay. Let's do this." They walked onto the stage together. Human and alien. Teacher and student. Friends who had created something neither could have made alone. The amphitheater fell silent. 2 million beings waited. Maya raised her bow. Across the stage, 200 alien musicians prepared their instruments. Some held traditional devices made of wood and metal. Others stood ready to create music through thought, through light, through methods Maya still didn't fully understand. She gave the downbeat. They began to play. The response. The first contact suite lasted 47 minutes. For 47 minutes, the galaxy listened to something that should not have been possible. Music that combined logic and emotion. Structure and chaos. Mathematics and feeling. When it ended, the silence lasted 10 full seconds. Then the amphitheater exploded with sound. 2 million beings, all expressing approval in their own ways. Applause, whistles, vibrations, light displays, pheromone releases. Every species celebrating in their own language, all saying the same thing. This is beautiful. This is new. This is what we've been missing. Maya stood on stage, tears running down her face, her violin still in her hand. She'd never been famous. Never won awards. Never made the kind of music that changed the world. But she'd made music that changed the galaxy. Backstage, hours later, after the crowds had left and the celebration had died down, Maya sat with Professor Kexler. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now?" Kexler's body shimmered. "Now we teach everyone. Now the collaboration spreads. Now Earth stops being a quarantined world and becomes a cultural center. Now human musicians and alien composers work together on every world. Now everything changes. That's a lot of pressure. You have already proven you can handle it. You came here alone, one human with one violin, and you taught the galaxy how to feel. Everything after this is simple." Maya laughed. Teaching the galaxy to feel was the simple part? Yes. The hard part comes next. The part where we all learn to listen to each other. The part where we combine our traditions and create something none of us could make alone. The part where we accept that art is not about perfection. It is about connection. The legacy. 10 years after Maya's first concert, human music had spread across the galaxy. Not as a replacement for existing traditions, but as a catalyst. Human musicians collaborated with alien composers on every world. New genres emerged. New instruments. New ways of creating and experiencing sound. The Corthians developed emotion crystals that could store and replay feelings. The Vexarians created thought symphonies that combined telepathy with traditional music. The Talvirians invented percussion poetry that told stories through rhythm. Every species brought something unique. Every tradition had value. But they all agreed on one thing: music was better when it was shared. Maya eventually returned to Earth, but she traveled frequently to teach and perform. She became one of the most famous musicians in galactic history, not because she was the most technically skilled, but because she'd been the first. The first human to show the galaxy that art was meant to be felt, not just understood. She was old now, her hair gray, her fingers not as nimble as they'd once been. But she still played. Still taught. Still believed that music could bridge any gap, solve any problem, connect any two beings no matter how different. On her final concert tour, performing the First Contact Suite one last time with the original alien musicians, Maya stood on stage and looked out at an audience that spanned 1,000 species. She raised her bow. And before she played, she spoke. 50 years ago, the galaxy quarantined Earth because they were afraid of human art. They were afraid of what it might do to them. And they were right to be afraid. Not because our music would hurt them, but because it would change them. It would make them feel things they'd never felt before. It would challenge everything they thought they knew about art and beauty and expression. She paused. But change isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. Because change is how we grow. How we become more than we were. How we discover parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. Music is just organized sound. But it's also more than that. It's a language that doesn't need translation. It's a bridge between minds. It's proof that beings who are nothing alike can still understand each other, can still move each other, can still create beauty together. So tonight, we play. Not as humans and aliens. Not as separate species. But as musicians. As artists. As beings who believe that the most beautiful things we can create are the things we create together. Maya raised her bow. The alien musicians prepared themselves. And together, they played. The galaxy danced.